Aziz Ansari has responded to accusations of sexual misconduct against him. This all springs from an interaction he had with a photographer from Brooklyn in September. Apparently they met at an awards after party. He got her number, asked her out to dinner later in New York, took her out for oysters, and then she did an interview with Babe.com where she recounts the whole interaction from her perspective, and then they say they hadn't heard from Aziz. We'll take you through some of this.
It's a long piece.
It's a very long piece. It ranges and details everything from her reaction to him giving her wine, which was like, it was white. I didn't get to choose and I preferred it red, but it was white wine. Just like random details like that to kind of build out the experience. All the way to the move he kept doing was taking his two fingers in a V shape and putting them in my mouth. Grace called the move the claw. And basically her characterization of the interaction, and if I'm getting it wrong, tell me, is that they went out to dinner, came back to his apartment, and there were a series of both verbal and non-verbal cues from her perspective where she was very obviously not into having sex. She did say at one point she didn't want to have sex, but she referred to this. It was, she kept kind of making out and backing off, and he would do stuff. He put her hand on his genitals multiple times. She moved it away, kind of implying she didn't want to do it. She said it was 30 minutes of me getting up and moving and him following and sticking his fingers down my throat again. It was really repetitive. It felt like a fucking game. There was a point at which she said next time after he propositioned sex, saying the words, "Where do you want me to fuck you?" According to her, version of the story. She said next time, and he said, "Well, if I pour you another glass of wine now, would it count as our second date?" And then it just went back and forth, and he tried it again multiple times, saying like, "Okay, we won't do it." He said, "It's only fun if we both are having fun." Verbally in that moment, she says, he acknowledged that I needed to take it slow, and then he said, "Let's just chill over here on the couch." That was the second time they went to chill on the couch after she said she wanted to cool stuff off. Eventually, she said, "No, this is not happening," got up, and then he called her a cab, and she went home and cried the whole way home, thought about it, and then there's an interaction which we'll get to via text message, but he did release a statement recently saying, and I will read it to you right now. "It may have seemed okay at the time. It was true that everything did seem okay to me. So when I heard it was not the case for her, I was surprised and concerned." He says he took her words to heart and responded privately, in addition to other things which we can discuss. But what are your guys' reaction to this accusation against Aziz Ansari for sexual misconduct, which she says was the worst night of her life?
It's hard. It's hard. This is hard. I actually, after reading this, I have my two best friends are psychologists. They're both, one's in her final year of school and one is in her second year. And I had to bring them both in to be like, what do you think about this? What are your thoughts on this? Can you guys read this? What do you think about this? And I was talking about this, and I think it's so hard to talk about because you don't want to be like harmful to the entire conversation that we're having.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a both and. That's kind of what I get. My friends Lavanya and Carmen, my two doctor friends, but kind of like help me come up with that. Like it is kind of like a both and.
So both what and what?
Her feelings are valid. I also think there's both, like there are two different things happening here. I think, because everyone keeps going to, why didn't she leave? Why didn't she leave?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
There's always like this discussion where there's so many reasons why a woman doesn't leave, and there's this fear. I can tell you why I don't just tell men no. I can't tell you how many times I've given out my phone number just because I felt uncomfortable saying no. But so I understand that argument as well, but you also have to point out that when she did finally, ask to leave, he called her a car.
He called her a cab.
That was it. But, and then in remembering that, I think sometimes part of respecting another person is kind of paying attention to when they're uncomfortable. And there are many moments where she pulled her hand away or where she walked away or he sat on the couch, she sat on the floor. And then when you bring up that, yes, she stayed naked, yes, she stayed there, I think you also have to point out those things too. She says, at one point she kind of described it as he was like chasing her around the kitchen a little bit.
Right.
Like she moved, she'd slide away and then he'd come down, or he put her hand there and she pulled it away and he put it back. And like that didn't seem fun. I think this kind of patriarchal system of dating that we've kind of been in, women are taught to play hard to get and men are taught to chase them. And that didn't work here.
Yeah, but like I've dated a fair amount of people, and I have dated people who it became very clear to me that the first date was a kiss, the second date was more, the third date was more, and it was very obvious to me that she was like, I have made a rule ahead of, and it became very obvious to me that she's like, I have made a rule ahead of time that we are not going any further than that. Once you identify that now you know she's different from the person who is like, all right, well, who knows what's gonna happen here tonight, we'll let it go. And there are as a guy in that situation, like as I'm reading this article, I'm like, how does he know all this stuff that's going on in your head unless you go, I am not gonna fuck you tonight and I'm leaving. How do you know it's different from the girl who's like, well, let's make out for 2 hours or whatever, and then the next step is more than that. And then how responsible is he? And the answer might be extremely responsible, but it's a question for like, she kind of pulled away, but they kept making out, and then she goes down on him. She sits next to him on the couch after they said no. He's, according to this, let's see, she's like, he sat back and pointed to his penis and motioned for me to go down on him, and I did. And she says, I just felt really pressured. Okay, maybe you did, but like, where is the moment where you go, I don't want this. I don't want to do this and I'm leaving because of it, because it's just so ambiguous. And from the point of view of, I think anyone in like a first date hookup, like who's the most articulate about everything? And the answer is the people who don't get into these situations.
Sometimes
is
you
that
can't help
fucked up? I hear like victim blame, slut shame. Like that's what I'm hearing in this year. But I'm trying to be honest.
I think that, when we've been talking about the Me Too movement and all the stories that have come forward, and we've covered a number of them on the show of different sort of events and instances that have come forward, and women who've been brave enough, women and men who've been brave enough to come forward and share their stories. And what we always end up coming back to is we have to start having the conversation. It's gonna be a really difficult conversation. And a lot of times, it's like, is it a difficult conversation? Because sexual assault, bad, that's done, conversation over. But these are the sorts of conversations that we do need to start having, where we need to start talking about how we are all conditioned to understand dating and pursuing and sexual intimacy, people are gonna say things that are wrong and that are offensive, and that you're gonna say something and then feel like you have people yelling victim blaming and slut shaming in your ear, and then we just need to have this sort of openness and transparency so that we can figure out how we can break down the system that conditioned these people to be in this situation where Aziz has a totally different understanding of what took place. And I believe that he was very surprised the next day when he got that long text message from her, which you can see through a number of different threads and I believe this has been corroborated that it's his number, that the next day she sent him a text message saying, hey, I don't know how you felt last night, but it went very badly for me. And I think that she is absolutely valid in her account of the events as well. So it's sort of a both and situation.
You get what I'm saying? It's like,
but we need to have the really hard conversations about intimacy, because that is where the lines are obviously very blurry from person to person, and we need to start talking about consent and how we can shore up those lines so that everyone is respected.
That's a good point, though, that I saw a lot of this, I'm like reading Twitter, a lot of people saying like, this seems like a very normal dating situation. This seems like a very normal experience. And I do find that problematic, that this seems normal. I think in any way, if you're like kissing someone and they pull away from you and scooch away, like that should be alarming. And
it should be addressed.
But like also there's like I am a boy, I don't know what's happening.
That's not
what did I kiss wrong?
Yeah,
but
well, that's
like
not okay. Well, then
a boys will be boys mentality.
If you're gonna sleep with someone the first day, like you interact with them like in person, then you may have to have those conversations because you don't know this person. So it's not just necessarily about you know this person. So you may have to like break it down a little bit more than what seems attractive because you don't know this person. You don't know what this means or that means. And neither of them, I think what's fascinating, like not fascinating, but they both didn't, for a long time, like didn't get what the other one was kind of like without saying. He obviously wanted to hook up and that was his intent. They kind of rushed through dinner, left a half a bottle of wine on the table, met at the house, went back to the house immediately. It wasn't really a date. And she was looking for a date and she was hoping to, it seemed like, salvage like a good night. When he had a plan. And nothing that he did led her, she never understood that this is all he wanted tonight. And he didn't understand that that's not what she wanted.
Yes, so here's my take on it, is Aziz Ansari does this all the time. And I might be wrong about this, but this is Aziz Ansari's like MO. I hate to tell you, but like I think guys have like a way they go on dates, and he probably had a lot of success with fans where he's like, I'm gonna take you to dinner, it's this place on the water, and we're gonna go have oysters. Oysters are, whatever, in very Aziz Ansari way, oysters are an aphrodisiac, and I'm gonna take you back. And then my thing that I do is, where am I gonna fuck you? I'm gonna fuck you here, I'm gonna fuck you here. And you see it in his show, like he does, like, where are we gonna fuck? And I think that's his thing, and I think it works sometimes with fans who just wanna fuck Aziz Ansari. And this was not one of those people. And this is how long it took him to realize that. Hopefully in the future, he will realize that. The best thing I saw, I put on Twitter, because I didn't really know. I did I'm doing a poll. Should I hate Aziz? Should I like Aziz? Or is this the worst way to decide whether I like or hate Aziz? And I got a response from someone who is awesome. And she said, I would just put Aziz on that list of people who's not cool, and I wouldn't recommend to like a friend of mine to date. And that's exactly right to me. It's like, is he locking girls up, tying them up, and raping them? No, but do I need him to do that before I say like, this guy's not the best person to date? No, not at all.
And I think that that's sort of what we're seeing with the hashtag #MeToo movement is that people are feeling empowered to come forward and share their accounts so that we can have conversations of like, yes, this behavior maybe for many people seems normal, but for a lot of people, it doesn't feel normal and it doesn't feel great to have a date go this way, but you feel like you can't say anything because we're conditioned to think that this is something that we shouldn't talk about. But it is not cool behavior, and we're allowed to say now that it's not cool behavior, and that she can find empowerment from other people online who have been, or other people who have gone on dates and been like, yeah, you know what, like there are some things that I didn't like as well, and like now I feel emboldened that I can speak up and that I can address this if and when the occasion should rise again, so that I feel like I'm not powerless in that situation, because it's important for everyone to remember that you have agency, you are not powerless.
Did you see that Margaret Atwood editorial?
Oh my gosh.
What did you think? For people who don't know, Margaret Atwood, who wrote The Handmaid's Tale, she wrote a thing about herself like being a bad feminist, and she outlined, if I didn't read it wrong, the process that we have now is potentially verging on a witch hunt, not in the sense that, in the specific sense that like there is no clear judicial system set up to handle this kind of thing that's fair.
Yeah.
Do you need that though to know that you should respect a woman?
No.
Do you need that?
No, but like here's what happens is like Aziz Ansari is the trending guy in the story now. He's a villain. That's what happens. Is he a villain? Well, both and is our framing device, which I also like. And yeah, I don't think he's the worst person out there, but by virtue of the fact that he is the headline on the trending story on Twitter right now, like the top moment, he is a villain, and there's going to be backlash potentially. And then we get into that discussion of like, so what's his side of the story? His side of the story is, I remember it differently. Where do we go from there?
It seemed more like I remember it the same. I just didn't know she didn't like it.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know she wasn't into it.
Also,
like it's nobody. He's not saying much, but he's not saying she didn't come back to my place. She didn't do any of these things. Yeah. I didn't do any of these things. He's just saying I didn't know she didn't like it. And I think someone tweeted, and I wish I remembered her name, but someone tweeted about how she thinks that it's important to remember that this woman was 22. And I was like, where is this going? And she was saying that when you're 22, you don't know much yet about like your sexual boundaries and your relationship boundaries and what you're comfortable with and what you're okay with, and and how you become comfortable being clear about what your boundaries are and what you're into, what you're not into, and that's part of growing up. I don't know, and then it was kind of pointed out that she wasn't even sure that it was okay that she was uncomfortable, because she kind of had to, when she went home, like talk to her friends, like, am I tripping? Almost like, get it? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I keep going. I think that as much as you can say she should have left, and as soon as she said she wanted to leave, he called her a card. That was it. It was done. But we also can't use the fact that a woman stays in your presence as ultimate consent or ultimate understanding that she likes this, she's okay with this. I keep going back to, she kept pulling away and pushing away, and that takes me back to like, men think that women want to be chased all the time, and sometimes I don't want to be like chased.
Like change
There's a
that
line
no
between like chase
into a
and
yes.
Right.
Oh, okay. I'm
gonna turn her on a little bit more. I'll give her some wine, or
but there are girls who like to be chased. Like that's not,
and that's the
not
tricky
a false
part.
thing to
if I
state.
don't want to have sex with you, I can't be talked into it, and that's a problem. That's the type of chasing that I'm talking about. What?
What's dating, but like not talked into it? I know what you mean by talked into it, but what's dating? But we are going to be around each other, and over time we will decide that we both want to be together. It is I mean, that's what it is.
That's different definition though from talking someone into it.
Right, you mean like that night, be like, hey, by the way, we're gonna have fun or not? I got the condom.
Like consent.
Can I do an Aziz Ansari move?
Okay, you don't like it this way? Okay, I'm gonna do it a different way. Okay, I'm gonna ask you again.
Back and forth.
Like, dude, there is a thing about dates, about certain dates, not all dates by any stretch, but I have been on dates where it became very clear to me that like she wanted like the perfect moment for a kiss, right? And that this isn't it, but it's gonna happen later through us talking, through us interacting. But we need to get to the end of the pier before the sun sets just so. Like, or we need to have like that moment that everyone watches movies and decides is the moment.
I've never desired that.
But
I've
you're
never
different.
been on a date. And
You're
was like,
an
oh my gosh,
individual, unique person.
For a kiss.
You've been on dates with different kinds of men, right?
Yeah, but I find it fascinating that you like read her mind like that. Like,
I've been told afterward.
You got it right. It's fascinating.
But what I'm saying is, like, every woman's different.
For sure.
And we can't deny that when it's convenient. Like, we can't deny that every woman's different, because there are women out there who I have been on dates with who later have told me that like I wanted to be pursued. I wanted to be chased. And yes, it is an echo of a patriarchal dating thing that this one woman had the choice of opting into, maybe, or not the choice, but she opted into it. This is her perception, whether she was socialized into it or she looked around and was like, I do like being chased. Call me old fashioned. But like from the guy's perspective, when she recounts in her text message to Aziz Ansari, although during the Babe.com interview, she says there were both verbal and nonverbal cues. In her text to Aziz, she says there were nonverbal cues. She doesn't say there were verbal cues. So I don't know. I do think in the grand scheme of things, it does seem like Aziz Ansari is a little like, I'm famous now, I'm gonna take girls on dates and fuck them that night. Like that's it, and I'm not excusing that behavior. I just think that if we're having this conversation, we can't deny that there are girls who want that perfect moment, and it doesn't play out like this at all. But there's going to be times, because every movie's based and every TV show is based on like this weird, like Sex and the City is all about like weird dating experiences where people don't know what the fuck they're doing.
For sure. I think we kind of like simplify when we're talking about chase, because yes, it's fun to feel pursued.
Yeah.
But we're talking about dating, and we're talking about respect, and like we're talking about like if I don't call you, I want you to call me first. We're not like what she's talking about is if you put my hand on your penis and I snatch my hand away, that most likely doesn't mean I want you to grab it and put it back.
I think what you're talking about, Brett, is and what happened in this situation is like a perversion of the dynamic that you have experienced.
Right, no.
And that's where it becomes
so maybe we should be more specific.
Problem.
Like,
right, so I guess the specific things I want to take away is what I said, like what I agreed with, which is like I would not recommend you date Aziz Ansari and read the room. And then I don't know. Like, I don't think I have enough information here to utterly vilify Aziz.
Yeah, I don't think I haven't seen, at least like on my feed, I told you how I clear my stuff up though too. I haven't seen that. Like you were saying, he's the villain now. I haven't seen that. Yeah. I've seen kind of a back and forth and a tough conversation a lot, but I haven't seen that. I haven't seen anybody say, don't watch Master of None season 3. Don't watch. I haven't seen anything
but
that.
There is that thing where now, like I've watched the whole Louis C.K. stuff, and I watched his stand-up specials, and I can't deny that they're still funny to me. But like I can't watch Bill Cosby, and I wonder if I can watch the dating nuance expertise on display of Master of None after reading this story, because it does seem.
Why do you think you can watch Louis C.K. but not Bill?
Because Bill's thing was, I am your dad. I'm your dad, and I'm I grew up on the Cosby Show, and he was like, Dr. Huxtable is a father who's like has it all figured out, and then the idea that he was doing all that stuff is really creepy to me. And then Louis C.K. was like, yeah, I masturbate in front of people, and he was dirty the whole time. And yes, I very specifically do not think he should have done that whatsoever. I think it's utterly reprehensible to have like a producer on a show you're working at walk in and be like, can I masturbate in front of you? Like,
no, but it's his like act kind of groomed you into like not being so freaked out by it.
Yeah. I mean, this is
he
just
like eased you into it. And so when you hear like, oh, this was real life. Oh, okay, it's.
Yeah.
No, I know you're not saying.
It's like this weird acknowledgement of perversion that I'm just saying relative to, like the hypocrisy scale of it is not as blatant to me as like the Cosby one is for sure, because he was like, let me teach you a life lesson every 30 minutes, and then there's you see Louis C.K. who's like, I'm the worst person, as I'm going to prove over the course of the hour. Versus Aziz, who's like, I'm like this super woke dating guru who wrote books about it, and by the way, what I learned from that, I just apply so I can take girls to oysters and bring them home and just fuck them that night.
Yeah, which I'm sure happens in that. I'm not childish, like that's not. Yeah. I don't think that that's a bad thing if women are okay with that. It's just he caught one that wasn't, and she seemed to think she was pretty clear on that. And I just keep going back to like pulling her hand away. Yes. I don't know why that doesn't stop anybody. Because that never means, I would love to meet a woman where snatching your hand away means put it back.
The hand genital situation is a different one.
Or would at least be like, I don't know if like I kissed a guy and he pulled away from me, I would be like, not like, okay, let me try it again. Let me put my hand in your mouth.
But I've had that and it's in, I don't know. I've seen like moments where it's like it's not like, ugh. It's more like, no, not yet. And then that's scintillating, and it's obvious that it's like, let's go over here and talk more, and I don't know. But that did not happen here.
Yeah, well, and then she said next time, and he was like, in his mind, no, this time, I don't know, it was like
well, he said not just that, he's like, what if I pour you another glass of wine?
Let's make it our next time. Oh, it's so bad.
I get it, but I don't know.
I think there's a two-sided conversation happening though. I think that it's easy to think that he's being vilified, but I don't see that happening.
I can't wait to see the comments on this one because I literally have no idea.
I'm scared.
Normally I know how I'm being perceived, now I don't.